Hey, it's Robert here from Absolute Body Systems. This video today, as you can see from the title, is how to burn thigh, hip, bum fat for females. So a big long title. So the thigh, hip and bum all around the same sort of area. So let's dive into first of all why women tend to deposit body fat on their lower half, and statistically more than what they do in their upper half, and why guys tend to deposit it on their upper part of their body. Let's start with that. Why they deposit it on the upper part of their body, but women on the lower half. So let's first of all dive into what a cell actually is. So use this little blue circle here as a cell. You've got millions of cells, billions of cells within your body, and there's different receptors for each cell. And you notice these little things, these little squiggly arrows coming off. These are these are the receptors for each cell. They're kind of like a little telegraph pole, if you like, and there's lots of them all the way around each cell. And excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold, so keep coughing all the time. What happens is they receive signals from other parts of the body and from hormones. And you have two different types of receptors within a cell. You have beta receptors and you have alpha receptors. So that'll become more apparent later on what the different types of cells are. If you look a little bit further down, alpha receptors respond to major fat burning hormones, and these are known as catecholamines. And the catecholamines can be known to us as, if you're British, epinephrine and norepinephrine, or if you're American, Canadian, or across that side of the water, it's adrenaline and noradrenaline. Dopamine's also another one, but not something we're going to talk about today. Basically, what happens is when these catecholamines combine with the beta receptors, this is the two that we spoke about above, the beta receptors and alpha receptors. When they combine with the beta receptors, you get increased fat burning. Now, there's a problem with this. The problem is this. Women have more alpha receptors in their lower half than they do beta receptors. When these catecholamines, your epinephrine and norepinephrine, dopamine and everything else, when they combine and they merge to alpha receptors, then they don't burn much body fat. But when they combine to the beta receptors, lots of body fat gets burnt. So the problem being, like it says here, that women have more alpha receptors in their lower half than they do beta receptors. So what do? It all then comes down to different things from what's happening to you through the environment you're around about, to what you're eating and drinking, and also your stress levels. We'll actually touch more on stress levels for belly fat in another video, but just for the purposes of this one, for thigh, hip and bum fat, different things you want to do. You want to cut out high processed, fatty and sugary foods, fizzy drinks, anything along those lines. You want to drink 2 to 3 litres of bottled water per day. That's very important. That's flushing out all the toxins from your body. You want to avoid heating anything in plastic in a microwave, as this leads to excess estrogens leaking into your food. So there's estrogens within the plastic, and they basically then mimic natural estrogen within your body, and then from the links from your hypothalamus to your pituitary, and then a bottleneck all the way down, it transfers through your thyroid and into your cells and everything else, and the body starts to get confused and the hormones don't work the way that they should work. So you start to deposit more body fat or maintain more body fat. Another thing you want to do is you want to combine HIIT training with HIIT training. And basically what the difference is HIIT is obviously high intensity interval training. This is cardio style exercise where you're getting your heart rate high for a set period of time, and then you're getting your heart rate low. And what this does is it helps you to burn body fat quicker, because when your heart rate's high, you're burning carbohydrates, which is your primary energy source. When your heart rate's low, as soon as your carb stores, your primary energy sources have been depleted, you start to burn fat stores. Now the problem with it is you can't just go for one or the other, because both of them together equal 1 calorie. So if you put carbs and fat through a blender, you're going to equal 1 calorie. So you need to combine them together. You need to shock the body into getting the heart rate high to getting the heart rate low. Stress it for a little bit and then give it a lot of rest. So the rest is actually beneficial. The HIIT training, this is high intensity resistance training, and it's basically the same approach, where you're getting your heart rate high and you're getting your heart rate low. The only difference is that you're actually using an external resistance. Now, this external resistance can be your body weight, it can be kettlebells, it can be suspension trainers, it can be barbells, dumbbells, anything that you need to externally move, and you're having to apply a resistance against it. This is going to tear down the muscle fibers and create tiny microscopic tears within the muscle fibers. And then through the food that you eat, and your food groups, for protein as an example, the protein will repair the muscle tissue through protein synthesis, and then the muscle becomes stronger, it adapts, and then you start to progress and your body starts to lose weight or gain muscle. Point number 5, time your carbs after your weights session, after your weights workouts, and no carbs and non-training days to keep your insulin levels down. So basically what I want you to think here is every single time you eat a carb, now let's be clear on what a carb is. Carbs are complex carbohydrates, which are rice, potatoes, pasta, quinoa, oats, all those starchy based foods. They're also sugar based foods, anything with sugar in it. This includes fruit, which has fructose in it. Whatever form the sugar comes in, or the carb comes in, what you need to realize is your body recognizes that just simply as sugar, from glucose to glycogen. It doesn't recognize it as any specific type of sugar. It just recognizes it as sugar, as a primary energy source, and it will utilize it for energy if you're active, and if your stores have been depleted, or for body fat, or for energy to use at a later date if you're going to be active, or for body fat if you're not, or if you don't get active. So you need to time your carbs when your energy stores have been depleted, and the best way to do that is to have them immediately after your weights workouts, and some high intensity interval training workouts as well. If your goal is to put muscle on, then the principles for this would be different. If you're looking to put on quite a bit of lean muscle tissue, a bit of muscle bulk, your principles for this would be slightly different. We'll cover that in another video. But for the purposes of this video, if it's just purely fat loss and specifically weight loss, then you, or for weight loss, and should I say specifically fat loss, you want to be consuming your carbs after your weights workouts. On non-training days, I would stay away from carbs. Again, that depends how many days a week you're training, so I'm not suggesting you go more than 3 days alternating between carbs and no carbs without carbs. So if you think like a day on, a day off, a day on, a day off, something like that. Because you really don't need as much carbs if you're not as active. You don't need to be using them as much. When you have carbs, your pancreas releases insulin to balance your blood sugar levels. So when your body releases insulin, it starts to, if your blood sugar levels basically go too high, and obviously the more carbs you take on, the more insulin you produce, and the more insulin you produce, the more stored your body fat you've got. Insulin's an anabolic hormone, which means, I can't speak today, is an anabolic hormone, which means that you can use it to gain muscle, but if it's not used in the right way, you can also deposit it as body fat. That's pretty much all I've got. It's very simple, but what I wanted you to understand was really this part at the top, the reason why women gain more on their thighs, their hips and their bum. So this is a typical example of where you'll get women who do loads of exercise or dieting, and they'll lose a lot of weight, particularly from their upper body, but they don't lose it from their lower body. And the lower body tends to be more directed towards excess estrogens and insulin levels, whereas the belly tends to be more directed towards cortisol levels. And that's something we're going to talk about in another video in a couple of days. I hope this has helped you. If you're interested in learning more about this and learning more about our transformation programs, then you can head on over to absolutebodysystems.co.uk. That's absolutebodysystems.co.uk, and you can check out our transformation pictures. You can also check us out on Facebook. You can hit us a message, or you can email me privately at robertmcvie@gmail.com. This is Robert from Absolute Body Systems. Until next time, cheerio.